been doing a little bit of research into Pocketpair as a company, and it's been a kind of an interesting experience because I feel like a lot of people are in denial about what's actually happening with this company, what this situation actually amounts to, and how badly they're going to get reamed by Nintendo. Because what is happening with Pocketpair is very, very typical for tech startups, in which they try and present themselves as this hyper successful brand that's making a ton of money, that's signing all these contracts, that's like putting out all these amazing things, and just the reality just doesn't really mesh with what we're actually seeing. The games still look like slop. Things aren't getting finished. The games have all these like very blatant issues, plagiarism notwithstanding. They're also glitchy and broken as all out. They keep announcing all these side projects. They keep announcing all this stuff. It's very, very reminiscent of like Keiji Inafune getting like the $8 million for Mighty Number 9 based on like Mega Man hype, plagiarizing Mega Man, his own, like something he worked on back at Capcom. It's like that, where like Inafune, Con Man, instead of working on the game, kept trying to like launch other Kickstarters, kept trying to launch an animated show, kept trying to turn Mighty Number 9 into this like major multimedia brand, when he never really achieved that even with like the original Mega Man game. He very specifically got Kickstarter money for Mighty Number 9, the video game, and he like wasted it on a bunch of stuff that like nobody actually wanted. And that was like a big prevalent problem with most of these people. Like that was a big prevalent problem with a lot of other Kickstarter projects. And to me, it feels like Power World is kind of following the same template, where they're trying to like sell people on this idea that Power World is a game that like Pokemon should be. Like, oh, it's violent and you have slaves and it's just like you build bases and shoot stuff, and like they try and sell you on this idea. But in actuality, there really is nothing to it. There's no satisfying gameplay loop. There is no content. Like, basically what everybody does in this game is just kind of like endlessly grind on it. Like, just because, like, well, I gotta own the Pokemon fans. I gotta put in the hours, the work to pretend that this is more fun than Pokemon. It's just laughably stupid. Like, and it does really reek of the same kind of culture that led to the rise of Mighty Number 9. People weren't supporting Keiji Inafune because Mighty Number 9 looked great. They were supporting it specifically to get back at Capcom, and for all the nonsense they did with like Mega Man Legends 3 and like not putting out like a new classic game, or not doing anything with the character for a long time. Keiji Inafune comes out like, oh, I'll do it better, and people give him money for it, and like nothing comes of it. This is exactly what's happening with Power World right now. Because the game is 2 years old now, it still has not left early access. They're announcing side projects, they're doing all this stuff. Like, there's really nothing they can do now to make like Power World like popular or successful. Basically all they can do is like keep up this facade that they have all this money coming in, and that like they're funding other games. And like, if you actually look at what some of the things they're saying, in regards to this, like, oh, we can put out a game and then fix it later, like, what? If it was any other developer like saying that, they would get laughed out of the room. But like Power World says that openly, and it's just it gets like worshipped. Like you have them like trying to say that like, oh yeah, we force developers to give us like their Steam libraries so we can see how much playtime they put on there. So we only want gamers working on our company. And I'm just like Shigeru Miyamoto has talked about this actually. It's not a good idea for game devs to be hardcore gamers, because like you don't have enough life experiences. You don't have like, unique like perspectives. Like if you have a bunch of gamers working on a game together, they all just end up looking like other games. Like that's Nintendo's released statements about that, about how they don't hire people that like love games for that reason. And like Power World's saying the exact opposite, because they don't know what they're actually doing. Power World is like trying to like hype themselves up by like just basically just telling people what they want to hear. This idea that like, oh yeah, we're never gonna like monetize Power World as we produce a trading card game. We're never gonna do this or that. Like while they endlessly produce like all these projects that aren't gonna go anywhere. Like they're very desperately like trying to like establish themselves as this major player in like the Japanese game dev space, and it's just not working. Honestly, like it very much feels as if it wasn't for like them lucking into like the Pokemon hate community, like none of this would have gone anywhere. It feels like they haven't really done anything of value, and they're just being propped up by other people, like other people that have a vested interest in trying to destroy Pokemon, like it's this decade's like Yokai Watch basically, where people are like trying to say that this is like some phenomenal thing and it's the next cultural phenomenon and it's going to replace Pokemon. It's going to be huge on TV. They have an animated series, like it's going to be big, and then it just doesn't blow up. Like nobody cares about it. Nobody likes it because like it's just not as appealing as Pokemon, and that's like the inevitable like fact that Power World has to deal with. Like lawsuit notwithstanding, the simple fact of the matter is Power World is not as good as Pokemon. Like, and you're gonna start seeing this like more and more. As they start introducing like the TCG and they start like trying to like do different things with their brand. The more people like see Power World and like they realize just how incohesive and incoherent it is, and how it's entirely like edge and like being like the anti Pokemon thing, like the more people are gonna kind of like get bored of it and just kind of like reject it. Honestly, anybody who's like genuine about games and like actually engages with them with any in any reasonable way. Like anybody would tell you that like Pokemon is better, Like Power World's unfinished, it's slop, it's like early access trash. Um and it's always going to be like that, Like it's always going to be the knockoff brand that's only relevant because it's not Pokemon essentially. It hasn't really established its own identity at all, and that's going to be something that like it really struggles with going forward, assuming that Nintendo doesn't get the injunction against them and straight up doesn't allow Pocketpair to do business anymore. But like, yeah, even if like Power World like doesn't lose the lawsuit and they're allowed to keep making Power World products, like what's gonna happen is that there's just gonna be like a complete like sense of apathy from the community, because outside of the whole like legal lawfare like thing between like Nintendo and like Pocketpair, like this company has no real momentum. Like you see people try and talk about it and try and keep it relevant, and yet like there just is no Power World community outside of like the Pokemon hate grifter community. Like people have like noticed very common like things in regards to like the Power World fan base, like how people still don't know the names of pals, how the animated series has never surfaced, how like how we were told that there would never be a lawsuit. Like again, like all of these things have just kind of like, it's becoming very, very apparent to me that Power World is going to implode in a big way. And it's not just because of the lawsuit. It's not just because of like the plagiarism. It's entirely because like this company is operating off of tech startup culture, trying to sell itself to big publishers, trying to present itself as this huge deal, and like it's just not going to happen. This company was founded by a literal crypto bro, okay? Like this guy doesn't know the first thing about business. He doesn't know the first thing about game dev. Like everything he's done is just going to lead to his company collapsing. And honestly, probably going to get indicted on criminal charges, right? This is going to be a very interesting downfall cycle for the company. I really don't think the Pokemon hate community is ever going to recover from this. Like after Power World falls from grace, and it definitely is going to happen. In a lot of ways, it happened like immediately after the game came out. Like I remember when like Pokemon Day happened, And everything that like they announced in Pokemon Day like overshadowed Power World and made it completely obsolete. Like that's kind of where we're at, honestly, is that it's not possible for Power World to catch up with Pokemon and like do what they do. And what we're seeing now is this kind of delusional attempt at like trying to make it happen, and it simply isn't going to work.